the kids?
Kids are doing good. My daughter, she married a police officer.
Little Jimmy?
Playing hockey at Boston Lad.
Is it clean? Okay, I'll see ya.
Say a little rose for me.
Yeah.
A great scene from what looks like a great film. That's right, folks. Here we are on the program, yet another program right here on BNN TV. We'll be discussing that scene and more, all about the entertainment industry with my co-host, Jim Saya. We have two very special guests tonight. Hey, Jim, welcome to the show.
John, thank you.
You know, you and I have been pretty busy these last couple of months. There's all sorts of things going on in the city. Films and all sorts of projects happening.
Johnny Depp's playing Whitey Bulger in Black Mass, and it's all over the place. It's just not in the city of Boston. It's Cambridge, Quincy, Milton, Dedham. He's playing quite a robust person, I'd say. Everybody knows who Whitey is if you're from the area, and it's a tough task. It's not an easy task. He's got to pull this one off.
No, because he's playing, it's not a fictitious character. He's playing somebody real.
That's right. And somebody who, once you get to know somebody, everybody knows his background, then you see him doing it. He's got to really pull this one off. I think he will. He looked good when I saw him, and he looked like somebody who can do it. He's an A-lister, so he should be able to do it.
And he sort of resembles him, too.
He does.
Now, Woody Allen is coming soon
He's
to
in Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
That's right.
And there are a few
Where the
other
gentlemen are
projects.
from.
That's right.
Steve and Dave.
Right, and we're going to talk to them in a little bit. 617-708-3280. Get your phone ready, folks. Our operators are standing by as we speak. 617-708-3280. We're cablecasting live right here on BNN TV, RCN Channel 83, Comcast Channel 23, RCN 83. We're also on YouTube and also on BNN TV for those of you who would like to watch us and follow us online. That's right, folks, we are now global. Steve, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Steve.
Thank you. I have something to say. If I was casting Black Mass,
Great.
Jimmy Say, Whitey Bulger. Did you see him in that scene?
Well,
You're going to have to grow your hair back.
yeah, I'd have to grow a little more hair back.
Our two special guests, Stephen
Martin.
and David, both here to talk about the independent film clip that we just saw, that Jim and I just saw. And I understand, Jim, that we have a few other things that we're going to show this afternoon, well, a little later in the program. 617-708-3280. What's going on?
Well, there's lots of stuff going on.
A lot of stuff
Number
going
one,
on for us.
My
daughter's getting married.
And also the clip. That looked like an interesting clip. Also, two reasons. A lot of action, similar to the theme of Black Mass, and black and white, which looks like might be making a comeback.
I always loved black and white, but this was for my own purposes. I just learned how to use Final Cut Pro. I figured if I don't have to deal with color correction, it makes it a little easier for me. So.
You know, Steve Martin has an eclectic career and also a long one in this industry as well. You and I worked together about, I'd say, 10 years ago.
Mystic River.
Mere feet from this location right now in Nicholson Square,
Right.
not far from Franklin Park. And we worked on a project in October. It was a hot day. Clint Eastwood directed the film, Mystic River.
Yeah, I remember.
We had a great time.
Sure, we wrestled Sean Penn in the scene too. I think I could have took him.
But that was the acting that you had, and then you branched off to different things.
Well, let me go back a little bit.
All right.
69, I left high school, and I started working with Looking Glass Theater in Providence, Rhode Island, which was an improvisational theater. Fast forward to about 5 or 6 years ago,
Right.
I run into David on set. I forget what set. What was it, Dave?
That was Waterfront, I think.
Waterfront.
That's a Rhode Island
David
production.
was the set designer at Looking Glass Theater, so we rekindled a friendship. But from Looking Glass, I went to Chicago Street Theater, which was another. It was a street theater. We had 3 trailer trucks. One was a stage, one was a dressing room. Full band. You had to dance, sing. We went to Europe. I went to the Bitter Festival.
Really? I didn't know that you were involved with that.
And then I came back,
Right.
and I went into rock and roll.
an eclectic background,
Yeah.
to be sure,
Yeah.
right? Dave, you have a varied background as well.
Right. When I worked with Steve at Looking Glass Theater, that was in the late 60s. And I also worked at Hasbro as a toy designer.
Right.
And then left there and became a toy inventor. And so I did less with the acting and more with the inventing.
But still with the creative aspect.
That's right.
Okay, we have a phone call.
Okay.
Can we have you, I think we have a phone call, Jim, right?
John, first phone call of the night.
Can we have your question, please?
Hello, I was listening to the beginning of the show, and you said that Black Mass was not shot in Boston, but it was. It was shot right on my street, in Townsend Street in Roxbury.
Right. It's about Boston, and it's shooting in Boston, but a lot of the scenes, in fact, I worked in a scene about a week ago, filmed right downtown Boston, as a matter of fact. Dorchester, there's a few scenes in South Boston. They had the reenactment of the busing in 1974.
Yeah.
But I think what Jim was talking about, many of the location scenes,
Right.
like for example, Revere Beach, that's supposed to be Miami. And there were things that are shooting in Chelsea that I worked in as well. So it's pretty much shooting all around the area,
Oh, yeah.
although the basic premise is that it's taking place in South Boston.
Right.
Is that right, Jim?
Right. They're trying to make everything look like
South Boston.
But
Right.
like I said, they're filming in Dorchester also. They filmed not too far from my house.
Yeah.
And they also are filming in Cambridge,
Right.
where I worked. And it's just one of the things, because South Boston's changed over the years so much that they can't do everything in South
You
Boston.
know, and I'm glad that caller had talked about that, because that's true. The movie industry finds Boston and Massachusetts very appealing, very attractive.
Right.
And the reason is because, like you said, they want authenticity. And if it's not the same as it was 40 years ago or 30 years ago, whenever the time frame is, they'll look at other areas within the other locations within the area
Right.
that will supplement for that. But we're fortunate to have the industry here, and we're fortunate to have the film shot as close to the area as
Right.
possible, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
you know-
They'll shoot less in South Boston than anywhere else, because South Boston has changed so much. That's why they're using all these other locations. South Boston, you figure they'd have a lot. They're not doing that much.
That's interesting about Revere Beach using it as Miami,
Yeah.
because one night I played in a band in Revere Beach, and I actually thought I was in Miami.
Because of the high rises and everything?
No, I think it was because of the Narragansett Bear.
Oh, is that?
Was Mushrooms big in that ever?
No.
But that's when we shot earlier. The scene we shot, me and Steve,
Right.
in the car, we shot that in Dorchester on Maudsley Boulevard. You
Okay.
can see the gas tank in the back.
Right.
Everybody will notice the gas tank.
And Jimmy is great in that scene.
Yeah, that's a good
Just
thing.
does that little...
Thank you.
So you've got a background, David, you've got a background that
Yeah, I
is
started
very
in-
varied.
Yeah, I was set design and puppets in the 60s.
Right.
I worked as a toy designer. I actually worked on back when they had the original G.I. Joe, the tall one, and did some of the stuff for that. Then I worked as an inventor in the toy industry for 40 years. And then came out of that and decided to try something else. And then so I went back into the acting. That's when I met Steve again. And I find it's a really interesting exercise.
Especially when you have films like Star Wars, and we have all of these visions of people like yourself who probably were involved with the creation of these creatures.
Yeah.
And that's the background that you
read,
have.
actually, Star Wars, they were trying to get money for the production of the movie, and they were at Toy Fair a few
Right.
years before the thing. And I talked to them for about a half hour, and I was trying to talk them into doing toy commercials. I thought they could make money for their movie if they used those special effects to make toy commercials. And they never did that, but they did end up making the biggest toy commercial ever made.
David is the most interesting man in the world. And he's also so humble, he would never say that. He was a pilot in the
And that's
military.
something that we were mentioning before the show. That's interesting. You wouldn't think that you would have that background as well, but
It's very interesting. Having been a pilot, it's very interesting. We were talking to Steve about it. We were talking on the way in here, in that being able to leave a place and then go fly away
Right.
and just look at the world and then come back again.
from a different perspective.
You always have a different perspective, that you always come back and you like being here and you go, this is great. I love Rhode Island. I love New England. But yet you see it as if you were seeing it from someplace else in the world. You know you're in a bigger world.
Right.
Right.
I grew up in the south side of Providence, which was a pretty tough neighborhood. And when I did go on tour with a theater group, the first place we went was a communist country.
Right.
So it was a really learning
eye-awakening
lesson.
experience
Oh, yeah,
for that,
sure,
that's for
it
sure.
was.
Yeah.
So it's a good experience to get away, I think, for anybody.
Now, when we saw that first scene, we saw a scene from an independent film. And here in Boston, here in Massachusetts, of course, the movie industry is here and making all sorts of films, but there's a big place for independent films, too, as we've seen.
I agree. I agree. Many times all of us have sat on the set and people have talked about their projects. And one of the things I wanted to do was just get on with it. So I bought some equipment. I learned how to use Final Cut. And I got a lot of my friends.
Because they're part of the industry as well.
In the film. There's 4 SAG actors, and it is a signature film.
And explain to the audience what that means. I mean, SAG actors can work
They
in that.
can work on it. There's a process you get on the internet.
Right.
It's got to fill out a lot of...
SAGAFTRA.org, and there's a whole application
Because we are
process,
talking
and they
about
give you a
union
SAG
membership, right.
number.
Right.
And because everybody did it for me I think I paid him a bag of donuts, and I gave, I don't know.
Because they do it out of the love of the project. And not only that, but you're dealing with fine-tuning and honing your craft at the same time. What better example? It's the same as stage acting. I mean, what better example of learning that than on
Sure,
stage?
you want to work. I mean,
Right,
you want to do things. The rest of the there's 9, including my dog, 9 actors or performers in the film. 4 of them are SAG actors: Debbie Rich, David, Jimmy, and
Yourself.
Stanley, Felix, and myself. The rest are my friends,
Right.
Who just have great-looking faces.
And that's a part of the industry, too.
Yes.
And that's one of the
It was
reasons,
very enjoyable.
That's one of the reasons why films travel to where they travel to shoot, because they're looking for authenticity. And Jim and I have had many people on the program, and many of whom are actors, and they do other things as well. But the ones that have been involved with independent filmmaking, it seems that they're involved with the whole project, too. I mean, there's an enormous amount of things that go on with this.
It's fun. It's fun. We shot this on the run.
Right.
I needed an accident scene. I was driving home on 295. There was an accident. I ran home, got the camera, climbed the canyon over there on 295 in Rhode Island, put the camera on a painter's pole and shot it, and it's one of the nicest shots.
And it's authentic, too, pretty much.
And it's authentic. It was fun. You know,
Yeah.
we had a good time. I needed a scene with David driving the truck where he picks up some roadkill. I called him up. I said, meet me in an hour. We found a street, and we just started shooting. So anybody who talks about making a film, it's very easy. You just have to put out a little money to get yourself a camera and put in the time. And there's plenty of people who will be willing to.
You've done a few of
help
those
you.
yourself.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
They're fun. And and you watch him in this. I watched some of the film. This guy, he could really do it.
Well,
I
you also
think
got to
David's
think
the best actor around. I think he just hasn't had
Yeah.
the opportunities that he should be getting.
Well, exposure
he has
is
a
key.
stillness
Yeah.
about him. That,
well,
exposure is
the
key.
thing is that you have to pay attention to the story. I mean, and it really always is storytelling. You're trying to figure out who these people really are. You have to spend enough time to make the person really believable in what they are. And then you have to make them interesting enough so the person watching the film cares.
Yeah.
That's a lesson we learned at Looking Glass Theater, because we created the shows and we created the characters. So story is the most important thing. We used to say that there's a parallel in the music business. You got to have a song. You can do all the production you want, but you have to have a song, a good song and a good hook. And I think it's the same thing with the film. You have to have a story. People want to hear a story about real people.
They want entertainment, and this is the whole. They want entertainment.
Right. Yeah. This film
Right.
is about. It's based very loosely on a real tragedy in Rhode Island, where a young boy was kidnapped and murdered. And I saw the father on television one night. They sort of stopped him on the street and said they were going to parole the murderer. And the father said, they asked him what he thought about the parole, and he said, I'm going to kill him. And that was the idea for the film. And that was actually sort of the first scene that was filmed.
So
and then we
it's
built around that.
quasi-realistic.
Yes. I just thought that was an interesting concept. All of us as parents,
Right.
we say, if anybody ever harmed my children, I'll kill them. But can you do that?
Right, that was the
When you
interesting
get to
thing
that
about it. Was
moment.
Steve started with that premise, And he was starting from the father, and how could this family endure that? And then he said to me, well, I'm going to make you the guy's brother. You're going to be his retarded brother. I go, whoa, so I got the same problem. I'm now the brother of this murderer that nobody loves very much. So who am I going to be? Who is this character going to be? And how did he endure being...
So that's character development that you have to deal with, too.
Right.
Let's get back to that. We have Jim, I think we have a phone call.
Go ahead, John, take this one.
Can we have your question, please?
Hi, I have a
Hi.
question for Steve and Dave,
Yeah.
and I was wondering what they think about this. Will we ever get back to movies having a story as opposed to having a lot of effects? I don't mind some effects, but I certainly miss, that grip of the story.
Right. Okay, thank you. And that's a good question. And that's what I meant when I said entertainment, because people want to sit home, and the entertainment value is there, but it's also educational too. And they want, this is important for them to see. How would you answer that?
Well, if I can direct all the films, they will be story-based. I agree with her totally.
Yes.
I become very bored with going to, especially independent films, where everybody has a gun, everybody's being shot, everybody's fighting and screaming, and everybody's swearing.
But there's a dramatic element in your story,
Right,
too.
but if you've ever seen real violence, it's really not like that. It's quick. You don't even notice it sometimes.
That's true.
I like quieter films that are about people's emotion and what's going on inside of them, and the internalization of what's going on.
Yeah,
inside.
that's almost going back.
I never see an action film. I like a slow.
Because an action film is an action film.
I like.
Well, that's almost going back to the Greek theater.
Right.
When you go back to the Greek theater, they never allowed any violence on the stage. The stage was the place where you mourned the violence that happened off stage.
Right.
You'll get an idea of this when you see the clip with me and David.
And we're going to see that in a little bit.
And when we do, let me give you the little cliff notes to it before we get to it. Yeah, that's what we want to do. If I don't have any problems with somebody who wants to do a movie where there's a hell of a lot going on. I got no problem with that.
But your style, this is your style.
I like a story. I like to hear a real story about real people.
And this is what, and these are the type of films that the movie industry began with.
Right.
They didn't. They began with these films,
Right.
and they were the hits from the 1930s.
Well, now the other thing
What's
that's
The
interesting.
Godfather about? It's about
Story
real
of them.
people. It's a story. It's about family. It's about eating around a table. It's about
That's
the
right.
interaction of all the people that live in a family.
If you go back, for us though, if you go back to Looking Glass, the thing that was very interesting about being there, that for myself, because I was a set designer, and these guys would be up doing their bit, and I would be watching the kids and going around with them, and if the show was working, these kids were so intent on that show, you couldn't take them away from it.
It was improvised.
Right.
It had a structure, but the children were involved and played characters.
I was watching The Bronx Tale with Robert De Niro.
Great story.
And the cameras were inside the shops and everything, and the person that I was watching it with said, that's the art of this film. That's why it's so popular, because he brought the cameras right to where the people are.
One of those young men, we worked on a film. I worked on a film with him, Stiffs. They shot it in Boston. It was a nice little movie. I don't know if it ever made it to the screen, but
Yeah,
that's a great story. There's a scene where they're in the boxing match,
Right.
and the son leaves Robert De Niro and goes to sit with the mobsters.
Right, because he's up in the...
There doesn't even have to be any dialogue there.
Right.
You know how that father feels in that scene.
Well,
That's
there's
the
a
type of
yeah.
filmmaking
And the
I
conflict
like.
is there, and you feel it too.
Yeah.
Good storytelling.
617-708-3280, 617-708-3280. It's almost time, Jim, to show that
Second clip?
The second clip. But before we do that, let's prep the audience a little bit.
Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, the second clip is with me and Dave. I play the father of the murdered child. I play Stanley Bukowski. His name's Bukowski because I love Charles Bukowski. And David plays the nitwitted brother of the murderer.
The murdered boy.
So I sort of been tracking him because I want to find out where his brother is, and his truck just happens to break down, and I help him fix the truck, and then I get in a little conversation to dig some information out of them.
Okay. Stay tuned. We're going to see this upcoming scene from
Slow burn.
Slow Burn.
Thank you. You're welcome. No problem. That's what neighbors are for, you know. Help each other out. Didn't we go to school together? I don't think so. I know. You're Billy Green. You sat next to me. No, that's my brother. He's home now. He was away? I'd love to see him. Hey. Neighbors. Helping each other. Work.
An excerpt from Slow Burn. Quite a scene.
I love David's face. I mean, he doesn't even have to say anything. He just, he's got a great face.
Good
Now,
work.
where in the process is the film?
It's complete. We're packaging it. It's 20 minutes long, so it's short. And
Going to the festivals?
yeah, well, I'm entering what you can afford to enter, because it does get expensive. And I'm pretty confident that will be chosen for some, I hope. And hopefully around here so we can drive to them.
So hopefully people in the area will be able to get a chance to see it too.
It looks good. I mean,
It looks good,
authentic,
and I
you know?
like the black and white. You talked about John Frankenheimer. He
he's great.
has a special touch too with film.
I think black and white gives the viewer an opportunity to be a part of the movie and create that color. It's more dramatic.
Now, David, what are you doing now? Are you still involved with film?
Yes, I'm doing a number of different stuff. Hopefully I'll be working on some puppet projects that are coming up. I did some movies. I did Worm-Free Society with another director. Then he's going around to film festivals, and that's a science fiction. I've done some student films. It's fun doing that. And it's exploring acting is really an interesting craft, really. You're exploring characters and you're exploring story. And I think the story is the other guest, Colin said, is very important. I think it's going back to story. We're going to see a lot more of that because people have to focus on that.
Right, and with the action films, and this is something that a lot of people, the action films are great and they make a lot of people enjoy film. They go to film and a young audience watches that and special effects and all this. But people can relate to the story.
Right.
They can't always relate to science fiction films or action-based films, but they can relate to a story like this. Certainly because it happens. It happens in people's lives.
Right. Well, that's part of is being a toy designer and having done toys for many years. I work with studying the play, kids play. And a kid plays just the way, as adults, we go to a play. And the play is event. This person says this happens to this, and what's the reaction to that? And the kids do that with their dolls, and they do that. They're interested in knowing what happens when something happens. What are the events of life about? And so a stage play is a play for kids, and it's a play for adults. And it doesn't have meaning unless you have interaction that you learn from.
Now, you're a puppet maker as well.
Yeah.
Your audience also adult?
I like doing both kids and adults.
Yep.
Yeah, I did, one of the interesting things I did back when after I did Looking Glass, I was doing some experimenting with doing puppets with kids that were injured in, had mental difficulties and all that stuff. And we were doing puppets because the subconscious, when you see a puppet, the subconscious in your mind is working to try to figure out if that's living or dead. So a puppet has a certain amount of draw of your consciousness because you have to determine whether that's a living thing or not a living thing. And so we were using this with kids, and I was shocked at how alive it made some of it, and to the point where we're dealing with abused kids that is sunk into a shell and wouldn't come out, and sometimes it drew them out so fast they couldn't deal with it. They couldn't deal with the emotion, so I couldn't do it with abused kids. So the doctors had to do it.
We were talking about that on the way up because I worked for 33 years at a state institution, and we had big Nas puppets out of Providence, which are full-bodied puppets, play rock and roll and stuff. We had them at the institution.
Similar to here on New Year's Eve, we have them.
And the clients loved them. They interacted very well with them. In fact, the next project we've been talking about doing is a movie for younger people that might incorporate humans and puppets at the same time. We're just starting to formulate that.
That's been around too, but we haven't seen much of that.
We're talking about life, not what do you call them, marionettes.
Yeah.
We want to use life-size.
John, I think we got another phone call.
Can we have your question, please?
Yes, I have a question for Steve and Dave. Would either one of them consider doing a TV series? And have either one of them done voiceovers? Because they both got great voices.
Thank you. Thank you for that call.
Dave?
Well, I've been studying voiceover lately because I think it's also very interesting because when you're doing puppetry and when you're telling a story, the voice really does carry a lot of the story. I mean, the successful cartoons that they're doing now, the cartoon movies, are usually the audio sequences are shot by good actors ahead of time.
Because it's real. It's
because
real
it's real.
voices.
And
It's
then
real.
they animate to that,
Right.
audio. So doing voiceover is very important, being able to do that.
And being an actor, of course,
Yeah.
generally would be.
And-
Steve?
Yeah.
I'm a lucky guy. I get a lot of under 5 lines. But of course, everybody would like to do some TV. I did some when I was younger. I have a little show on YouTube that I do called Ask Uncle Sal.
Oh, really?
It's just sort of like an advice show. Mostly me talking to my
Get you out there, though, right?
Yeah, sure. You got to do everything.
Yeah.
You have to create. If you're a performer actor in New England, Boston area, you have to create your own projects, or else you're going to be sitting home all day long. I like to do a show where I can make my eyebrow go like that, like Dave.
Have you ever done stand-up comedy?
I tried it a couple of weeks ago.
So really?
I loved it. All I did was get up and talk about my son.
Jim and I have had stand-up comics on the show too.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing of all the things that I've done. Not that I've done, I've never done that. Comedic acting, yes, but to me, it would seem to be very difficult.
Have you ever played music live?
No.
I found it very similar to playing rock and roll. There's a real visceral reaction that you get, when you tell something that's funny and people are really.
And that's what the drive is when you have stand-up comics.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the life-size puppets.
Well, like I said, we're just formulating. I saw this artist. He's a photographer. I can't remember his name right now, but what he did was he did black and white.
Right.
He used to make these masks, sort of rubber masks, put them on his kids, and then take shots of them in very different locations. So that sort of sparked that idea. And David wanted to do David wanted to do something with the puppets. So I said, why don't we do some kind of fantasy for children and do it in industrial areas that are abandoned, give it a real feel. So we're thinking about that. I have a couple projects I want to do. I want to do that, but I also, my father had Alzheimer's, my mother-in-law had Alzheimer's, and I have a script on Alzheimer's that I might
tell you,
like to touch base on.
Yeah, that seems more prevalent now than ever before.
I'm actually want to have dementia because I've got a lot of stuff I want to forget. But
we'll try to get all the new movies in here.
617-708-3280, 617-708-3280. Jim and I hosting the show once again, midsummer, and we're cablecasting live right here at BNN TV, channel 23 on Comcast Television, RCN channel 83. We're also on bnntv.org, so you have access to the show anywhere on the planet. And also, it is now up, thanks to our media person, Ted Lewis, it is now, this show will be up on YouTube probably within several days. So, very special welcome to all of you, and special welcome to all of our young people watching us from Emerson College. 617-708-3280. What else is going on, Jim?
Ted 2.
Ted 2. Ted 1 was enormously successful.
And nobody thought it would be that big. I mean, it rose to the top of the
By
line.
a local boy, too.
Yes,
a local boy starred in it.
Right. Mark Wahlberg. And
we had his brother on a few months ago.
Yes, we did. And Ted 2 is going to be shooting in a couple weeks.
Seth MacFarlane still.
Seth MacFarlane, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and Dave went to one of the casting calls. No, he went to the audition.
Yep. Yeah, I did some auditions for it.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting thing. I loved it when I first saw it because that character is...
The teddy bears are like a puppet.
It is a puppet, really.
Right.
Because the animators that do it have to manipulate him through animation, but it's very much like doing a puppet. In fact, we had originally thought of doing some puppets like that and then doing all the processing in post so that it would be like Ted. But the cost of it was a little bit difficult.
Right.
You have to
Since
have a
we're
big
paying
budget.
people with donuts.
Yeah, that's right. Not really.
And
we don't have the budget for that.
Yeah, Ted 1, phenomenally successful, Jim.
Unbelievable. I didn't think, I never thought it would be as successful as it was. It was a tremendous hit. And I think this one, if it's got the same people who probably saw it, some people saw Ted 1 3, 5, 7 times.
And if they like Ted 1, they'll go to Ted 2.
Well,
you know.
Yeah. Well, Seth MacFarlane, he likes to keep things interesting. You know, he'll go as far as he can to make it.
Ted MacFarlane is a graduate from the Rhode Island School of Design, as a matter of fact.
That's correct.
He is.
Yes, he is.
In fact, Billy Morocco, who plays the murder in Slow Burn, his son, I think he roomed with them.
You know, and that's something, because Jim and I talk about this all the time. When we talk about the entertainment industry, people, when you're watching television, like you're watching TV right now, folks, what you see the actors here, but you don't see the people behind the scenes. You don't see the director and the producer, and we have all of those here too. Believe me when I say this, I don't do this on my own. We have people here that help us do all of these programs. And the people that we have here, that we interview, that we talk to, that we discuss the entertainment industry, well, there's nothing they don't do, right, Jim? Nothing they don't do in the industry. Everything from stand-up comedy to voiceovers to writing and directing their own projects, like you are.
Sure.
And that's the one thing now and we talk about this all the time, it's no more like, well, I'm going to be an actor solo, or I'm going to be a director. This is what I want to do. Now it seems like you have to wear many hats like you do.
Right. Sure, and you have to remain a human being, too. I was picking tomatoes with David the other day and driving the murderer to the Logan Airport to go away the other day. You got to stay involved in the world.
And that's why I brought up Seth MacFarlane, because he's a man of many talents and very creative.
Right, right.
And now not only is Ted 2 coming here, Matthew McConaughey is coming next month also.
Right, so we've got like what, Jim, like 3 or 4 projects going on at the same time here?
At least 3, maybe 4 at the same time.
Right.
I don't know when Black Mass ends, but Woody Allen in Rhode Island, Ted 2, and then Matthew McConaughey.
You know, Woody Allen never usually does anything outside New York City. It's interesting that he comes to New York. But then again, New York is Rhode Island's a little like New York.
The studio's right down the street from
One of
my
the
house.
interesting things about having these guys come here is you get to go on their set. I did get to go on the Woody Allen set for a little while. And he has a very interesting directing style. Very business, very...
Matter of fact.
Matter of fact, but he talks very carefully with his people, and he lets them go, and he, just tells them a little bit about what they're going to do, and he gives them the go. And I was so surprised because some of the takes, it was just the first take was it. He said, "That's good, wrap it," and they're moving on.
Steve,
one
that's
actually similar to David
Russell,
and
also Clint
Eastwood shoots that way
almost
too.
like on speed.
But also a film that Steve and I worked on, Mystic River.
Mystic River. Yeah.
Clint Eastwood.
And it's such a learning process
he does
to be
that
around
too.
these people.
Right, he's like that too. We have Jim. Do we have a
Another call, John?
Another call here. Okay, can we have your question, please?
Hi, this is for Dave and Steve. I was wondering, who do you think are the up-and-coming actors of today, and what do you think of Bradley Cooper? And when I think of substance, I think of John Garfield, Humphrey Bogart, James Cagney, on that line.
Okay, thank you for that question.
So what would you say? What is the question again now?
Who are your favorites?
Oh,
Who
the
do you
favorites
like?
actors?
And she's going back to this. We're talking about stories from the from the 40s
Right.
and 50s.
Right. There's a lot of new actors that I think are very good, and both female and male,
Right.
that have a lot of talent. And I think that will be interesting to see if they get a chance to really make real stories. I'd like to see that.
Right.
Offhand, I can't remember their names because I get them confused with each other. But I think there's a lot of opportunity out there and a lot of interesting people. And I think there are a lot of people that really like this industry. And
A lot
I
of
think
people
we'll
have
see
to.
stuff in it.
A
We'll
lot of
see
people,
some
like
stuff.
she said, any movie star could be anybody. You could be the next one
Yeah.
in this business. It doesn't
Right.
take nothing but
It
more
doesn't
than a
take-
hit.
yeah, it
You can
takes
throw
the
yourself on
right.
YouTube nowadays,
Right.
and all of a sudden you just generated over a million
You're a
hits.
celebrity, right.
And somebody's a star all of a sudden.
Like David, you know, as you get older, you can't remember a lot of things. So that's why we do a lot of improvising. You can't remember the scripts. I watch a lot of these series now you see on Netflix and so forth. And there's some unbelievable actors and actresses on some of those shows.
Yeah.
Young and old.
Yeah.
Somebody could be old and just be at the beginning, but some of the acting is just incredible. Just
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
You liked a lot of the old actors, John.
Yeah, I do. I thought that Bob Hope was great. I really liked him a lot. Charlton Heston was a great actor,
Yeah,
certainly.
sure. Yeah.
Steve McQueen.
Steve
Yeah.
McQueen was a great actor. Paul Newman, certainly. These are the big stars from the 40s,
Yeah.
the 50s, the 60s,
Sure.
the 70s, and we just lost Eli Wallach, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and
Yeah.
Well,
How the West
just a
Was
couple
Won.
of weeks ago on one of the internet sites, they said they were naming the 10 greatest actors of all time.
Who did you?
Marlon Brando.
Oh, he's considered one
He
of the
was
top.
one of
yeah.
the top
He's
actors
considered one of the top.
of all time. And I know The Godfather made him, but he was in the 50s also, before
right.
he made
And
The Godfather.
If I'm not mistaken, he was Stanley Kowalski, not too far from here, down at the Wilbur Theater,
That's right.
pre-Broadway tryout. Boston back then was major
You
theater.
know who I'd love to
Yeah.
see in a movie? You know, I always think, well, who would I like to sneak in one of my movies? Michael Keaton? Is it
Oh, yeah.
Michael Keaton?
He played was it Batman?
Yeah, he played
Did he play
Batman
Batman?
role, yeah.
I think
But you
so,
don't
yeah.
see him around
No.
much anymore. That's the guy I'd like to see. He was always very interesting to me. He was a little odd, had a little
Yeah.
strange delivery.
Yeah.
But that was the appeal, though.
Yeah.
See, that's the appeal.
Yeah, that's what drew
Yep.
you in.
That's
Yep.
the
There's
appeal.
a TV show I watched, Rectify. There was only like 5 episodes. I think it was on Netflix. And there was a fellow who plays the lead. I can't think of his name now. But it was phenomenal. Phenomenal actor. I wish I could remember, but I don't.
But that is the thing that makes an interesting actor. You think of Humphrey Bogart, that he had the ability to really attract an audience because there were some people that his bosses and that said, gee, I'd like to fire him, but I can't because every movie he makes, people come and watch it.
Yeah.
So no matter how bad the movie is, people would come and watch him.
He's the
and there was
I also
something, that's
get
the,
into,
that's the old-fashioned star,
Yeah.
Right.
which was just
We were
the ability
talking-
to just be interesting.
Right.
But for some way, some reason, those people enjoyed that film because he was in it, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was the ability for the actor to,
Right.
to create an interest in just what he was doing.
Right.
And I think sometimes if you see a good experimental film or an independent film that just gives you a piece where they show you somebody doing something simple.
Right.
Right.
A young boy going across the lawn and getting something and doing something where he's really doing it, and you get a chance to see him think and pick up his thing and do what he's doing and
Right.
see that mind working.
right.
It's interesting. And that's
Now-
one of the things that makes movie interesting.
We were talking before about Leave It to Beaver. I'm watching it with my grandson now, and it's very entertaining.
Right.
But the people who are the bit players, there's a fellow who's the fireman who Beaver goes and sees all the time, and he's always sleeping. Or Hugh Beaumont, who plays the father.
Right.
If you're really watching those shows, those people are unbelievable actors.
Right.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about before, their clothes are impeccable.
Right.
Back then, they didn't have as many cuts and, we'll do it again and then again.
Yeah,
Back then, they
right.
probably just did it one take and that's it. Just
you
put
think
it
of the
out
guys on Andy Griffin, the barber, and
Green
those
Acres
people.
is a-
Incredible.
Green
incredible.
Acres-
Coming from vaudeville, probably
Yeah.
most of those guys.
The Green Acres characters that revolved around Oliver and Lisa were very, very good.
Right.
They were very good. But Sidney Poitier comes in that category, Jim. I think he's a great actor. Sidney Poitier, all he has to do is come out on stage and that's the scene. That's how powerful of an actor he is.
Right.
Yeah, he's like the Denzel Washington of today. He'll take Denzel
very,
Washington.
very powerful.
We talk about this all the time, just being still when you're on film and letting everything behind you sort of do the acting for you and internalizing it. And I let David do that a lot in the film. In fact, the next clip is a good example.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because we're going to, before we get too far into the program, we're 3/4 through with the program already. I mean, where does the time go on the show? But what we're going to do is explain a little bit about the third clip.
Okay, the third clip, we just saw the one where, I'm sort of digging.
Right.
David drives away, and he's going to head home, and he's living with his brother, the murderer. That's all you really need to say about it.
Okay, let's watch this clip right now. And
you want to take a phone call first?
We'll take a phone call before the clip gets on. Can we have your question, please?
This is for Steve and Dave. If you had to name your favorite motion picture of all time, what would it be?
Well, first of all, you're going to have to stop calling Ma. That's like your fourth call now, okay? And it's long distance because you're not alive anymore. I have a couple of favorites. The Godfather, I love. Godfather 2. And Down by Law. I don't know how many people have seen it, but if you haven't. And my third choice is Wings of Desire.
Jeez,
that was a nice movie.
Okay, let's watch that clip.
Call this food? You eat like this? Food, huh? Yeah, here's your food. Yeah, here's your food. Enjoy. It's good, baby. What'd you say? It's good. No, baby.
Strong scene.
Well, maybe I do like a little violence once in a while.
Just a tad. Just a tad. Intense. That's a good word. Intense.
If you're watching David in that scene, he doesn't do much. It's all internalized, and that's what I like about it.
That's the point, right?
Billy, we had a little structure to that scene, and Billy said, "Let me improvise," and he came up with the little cigar bit where he cuts the cigar.
When you come out of prison any kind of food it takes to go.
Hey, little roadkill. Never hurt anybody, right?
Now that you've finished this project, and you're getting it ready to go into the festivals, what do you have in the future that you're planning?
Well, I want to go on to another film. I want to wear the circuit out, because this is a calling card, so you want to get your name out there as much as you can. I'm just looking forward to,
Like you already
being with my friends, and we have our production company called a gang of artists, which it is. That everybody's an artist in some way.
Right,
And if they're friends, and we just want to get back together and start creating
yeah,
something
people
again.
are sitting home saying, I'd like to talk to Steve a little more. I'd like to be involved with his projects or something, and maybe we could keep in contact or contact David.
Either one of us.
What would they do in order to do that?
Well, we've got a contact number on the card.
They can if they have my number and they know me, they can just
but
call
is
me.
there a
Or
website?
they can just email me.
Right.
som2@cox.net. Or you can go on 1111 Pictures on Facebook, or you can contact me directly on Facebook, Stephen O'Neill Martin. One of the things we try to do is I try to use just Rhode Island or Eastern Massachusetts actors. I like to keep it
More local.
We have a saying, we like to stay between the W's, Woonsocket and Westerly, Rhode Island. Everything I need is there.
Now, you put this into a couple.
I put it in the Rhode Island Film Festival. Hopefully we might get in. I'm going to do New Hampshire. I did the Warsaw Festival just because my mother, before she passed, she had visited Poland. She was Polish, spoke Polish. So I just, for a kick, I thought maybe if we get in, maybe I'll take a run. Maybe can I take a kayak to
Oh, yeah.
Poland?
It may take a little
might take
while.
longer.
There's a little overland
That's all right. I'll give it a
journey
shot.
that you have to deal with. But if people wanted to contact you and
Just
because
email me or
they
call
like
me
the
up.
idea, they like
Call
the
me up.
film, and they want to see what's going to happen with it.
Yeah, just give me a call, or my email, som2@cox.net, or go to 1111 Pictures on Facebook.
Right. And Steve, David, what would they do to contact you?
Well, usually, let's see, I ran a group through the Rhode Island Film Collaborative Actors Group. We've stopped that now, and we're just exploring other stuff that we're going to do. But usually if you contact through the Film Collaborative and get to know people in Rhode Island, there'll be somebody who knows where I am and what I'm doing. Yeah.
David has a very good acting class. It's actually about auditioning.
Oh, really?
Which
You're
we
a
treat.
teacher as well. You're teaching art?
Well, no,
Teaching
what we do is we had a group where we get together and create questions and then try to answer them.
Okay.
So rather than myself being a teacher, I'm just another member of the group that creates facilitators, but we're just trying to create questions for us to try and answer. I think that's a good way to work.
And Jim, it seems like there's a plethora of projects here coming our way, huh?
About time, John.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and hopefully in Boston we get more auditions and more principal roles. That's what we all strive for. And I know they're tough because LA and New York comes in all the time, but there's something the union does have to do is step up for that.
Because
we don't get enough chances and
we have
opportunities.
a lot of great local actors.
Right.
Here as well.
Oh, my God.
And you've seen that working with the projects that you've
I
done.
love Jimmy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want you to come
And
work with us. Look at that face.
Yeah, we've
Look at
worked
that.
together too. But when we work on these sets, you see so many people that we know, and it is kind of a sort of small community.
Sure
too.
it is, sure.
But there are a lot of people.
And all great people.
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of local actors that need to work.
That's one of the biggest things here.
Right.
Is getting more names, faces out there. That's what we're trying to do. You know, we're pushing the envelope, and hopefully something turns out.
And we want to keep all our viewers in tune about making sure that you contact your state rep, your state legislatures, your state rep, your state senator, and just indicate that keep those tax breaks coming, folks. Make sure that Hollywood comes and makes those films here in Boston and Massachusetts. It's a win-win situation for this state. The Commonwealth reaps an enormous amount of benefits from that. Why do they do that, folks? They do that because people worldwide are able to see what beautiful state this is.
Well, you just figure these three movies will be shot here. You know, Black Mass, Ted 2, and the Matthew McConaughey. That's over $200 million worth of movies right here. That's a lot of money, not counting what they're going to put into the economy.
No.
So
that's already gone into the economy.
That's right. So when they come here, they put into the economy, which gives people chances to get jobs.
Right.
Gets anybody who wants to be in a movie.
Right.
And it's fun.
Contact your local rep, senator, legislator, say, look, we'd like to have the tax breaks keep coming here to Massachusetts. Anything else going on, Jim?
That's right now, that's it, John. We're at these movies out of the way, and hopefully a TV series is in the near future.
I know you mentioned a couple of months ago when we were doing the
that's
show
right.
that a television series is essential.
It's key.
Right, because it's constant.
It is. It's something that stays here, something that each week you can go to a job. It's like you only if you work 2 or 3 days a week on a
I'm
TV
thinking of
series.
Spencer for Hire.
Well,
was
yeah.
here for a while ago, and that was probably
The last one that was here.
Probably.
We tried it. 2 of them already came, but they wouldn't have no successful. They weren't successful enough that they took them off the books. But now I think one more is supposed to be coming in October.
Right.
We're supposed to try to get one in October now.
Rhode Island had a few for a
Body
while.
We
Proof.
had Body of Proof.
We all worked in it.
Yeah, we
worked on that.
we had
And
a
was
good
it
time.
Brotherhood?
We had a good time.
Yeah,
Brotherhood
It was
as well.
Brotherhood,
Before that.
and then there was one called The Waterfront
Waterfront, right.
with Joey Pants.
Yeah.
I
Steve
remember his
Baldwin.
last- Steve.
Yep, that's right.
Steve Baldwin.
Yeah.
Because Rhode Island is active too, as
Yes,
we
they
can
are.
see with the
They're
way.
They have a,
Credits
they have a
are not
different
as-
one. It's a different tax
Yeah, they
credit
have
in Rhode Island.
smaller
Right, because it's a small
deal.
area. Right.
I think people, I went out to Los Angeles for a film called Siren, which was shot here. It was SAG film by Jesse Pernelli, who wrote Dracula. And I had a role in it. It starred a guy from True Blood, Rob Kopinski, and I can't remember the girl's name. Lost my train of thought. So I went out to L.A., and it was not my cup of tea. I can see where people would like New England, would like to shoot here, just because...
Because of the terrain and because of the seasonal change.
I think people are friendlier here.
Yeah.
I think it's a little friendlier. People aren't all about the business. You can walk around
You're in a
town.
smaller bowl.
Because LA
Yeah,
is
and if
about...
you're in Rhode Island, it's not as much traffic. And even if you're in Massachusetts, if you're outside of the Boston area, it's not
And
as
LA
bad because
is
they're
about
shooting
the
near
business.
Worcester.
Yeah.
In LA, it's pretty wild. Pretty wild there.
But anyway, we had a great opportunity to talk to you about the
Yeah,
film.
this is a great show. This is a
And,
great operation here. I didn't even know it existed.
Well, now come back and visit.
Sure.
Come back
Get
and
that
visit.
comedy. We got to get that comedy routine together.
That's right, yeah.
Come up here and tell some.
Yeah, we'll come up
Jokes
to do a
about puppets.
puppet routine.
It doesn't. It
Yeah.
seems like there's nothing that you're not involved with the entertainment industry, and that's actually key. That's essential.
Yeah.
Today.
It's
Yeah.
fun.
Right.
So give us a call when we come back, Jim. Probably
We're not
in a couple
coming
of months.
back for a few months?
A few months. We're going to be. We're going to take a hiatus here at BNN TV. We'll be back in October. We will get that date for you at some point. But for August and September, the show will take a somewhat vacation.
That's
Is that
it.
right, Jim? And we'll work
Going
together
away?
probably.
Got any plans here?
Well,
Where
we're
you
going to be
going?
working on some
We
films.
go.
Jim and I are
Where
going to
you
work on some
going?
films.
We're gonna be
We're
back.
going to be working on
That's
some
right.
films.
Take a vacation
And then we will be
abroad.
back with an all-new program in October right here on BNN TV, Comcast TV.